Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Microsoft Teams App Camp. We're so excited you're all here. My name is Bob German. I'm joined with my colleague, Rabia Williams. We're both developer advocates. This is going to be 1 hour of supercharged, demo-heavy content to help you navigate through the Microsoft Teams App Camp, which is a program that will allow you to learn how to bring your application into Microsoft Teams and then monetize it through our commercial marketplace. So before we get into some more serious topics, let's do some housekeeping. Please make sure that you check the code of conduct at aka.ms/code of conduct whenever participating in an event like this. We welcome your valuable feedback. Just remember to be nice to each other. So good morning, Rabia. How are you?
Good. How are you, Bob? So
Great.
in this 1 hour, we will be taking you through the opportunities that you can leverage to build and grow on Microsoft Teams. We've got a lot of companies examples to show you who have actually brought their apps to Teams and monetized them. We will explain the benefits of bringing your application to Teams and also how you can reuse your application to reach more users on Teams. Finally, we have a roundtable with Microsoft experts. We've got a great lineup of panelists. So, to start this off, let's bring in Meena Millman, Director of Strategic Partnership focused on Teams development and startups. Hey, Meena.
Hi, Rabia. Hi, Bob. Thanks for having
Hello.
me.
Thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone. I'm Meena. I'm a Director of Strategic Partnerships at Microsoft, and I work with partners and innovative companies new to the Microsoft ecosystem. And sorry, I'm looking at these things. I'm here today to address the opportunity for partners to build on the Microsoft Teams platform. Millions of users are connecting today in today's hybrid workplace on Microsoft Teams. And for our partners, what that means is the distribution capabilities that are offered by Microsoft Teams allows a partner to put its application at the center of hybrid collaboration. And while Teams is a collaboration tool, it really is much more. It's a hub for teamwork that supports all the way that people work today. Work doesn't happen in a vacuum. You need to be great at sync, async, as well as remote collaboration. People use Microsoft Teams to meet, chat, call, and collaborate. And Microsoft Teams is an organizing layer. And by that, what we mean is that it's a place where partners can build upon or extend Teams communication features. A partner now can offer its users a uniquely connected collaborative experience and bring collaboration directly into the heart of its design. By building an integration directly into Teams, partners can create new and improved processes, workflows, and go where customers already are at. And with that, they can find an untapped market to potentially target. And for Microsoft Teams customers, this ability to find third party applications, what we call collaborative apps, allows them to engage with external solutions and bring those directly into the context of where they're working. Accelerated by global events, collaborative apps have started to represent a paradigm shift of how we work. Instead of solutions trying to be the focal points where people go, collaborative apps brings business workflows, data, insights directly to where people and users already are. With 270 million monthly active users, Microsoft Teams has become the new way where people are connecting and collaborating. They are staying in their flow of work, keeping their full context. And by that, what we mean are people are now able to access information from multiple systems directly from the platform of Teams. Since the start of 2020, monthly active usage of third party applications and custom built solutions within Teams has grown nearly 10 times. And in the past year, the number of applications created by developers, partners, and customers for Teams has grown dramatically, with 1,600 partner applications in the Teams App Store and 80,000 lines of business applications that have been custom built directly for teams and are now being used by our customers. Our customers are using Teams and are using applications built on Teams all over the world. But what are the advantages to a partner about this Teams opportunity? Well, we think there are three main potential advantages about building an integration into Teams. First, there's the ability to reach a broader user, broader audiences, and build connections to the Microsoft 365 and its robust community of Teams daily users. Second, there's the ability to leverage product innovation. You can improve your application's experience for your customer, and you can create new workflows by engaging your customers through the use of Microsoft 365 suite of communication and collaboration capabilities. And third, there's also the ability to increase your sales and reduce development costs. By using the Teams platform, you can develop once and then deploy your application on any of the Teams surface areas, such as web, desktop, and mobile. But what about customers? How do Microsoft customers view third-party applications? Well, in today's global economy, customer leaders are looking not only to create impact faster, but really they need to start to prioritize investments that are going to drive the most important and meaningful business outcomes for their organization. Our customers have told us that they value time savings, the time savings that their employees can gain through rich integrations into Teams. It cuts out the time that it would otherwise take to search around multiple systems to find relevant information, transfer that information back and forth, and share it with their colleagues. By having a quality integration that can be turned on directly into the flow of where people are working, that will really help boost productivity and gives people information when and where they need it. This helps companies maximize their investments with technology that they already are using so that they will be able to achieve more. In other words, it's what we call achieving more with less. But what about value to partners? Well, we work with a lot of startups, and many partners have seen immediate value working with the Microsoft ecosystem. Here are what some startup partners have said who were brand new to the Microsoft ecosystem and what they have found when they've started working with Microsoft, and really how being and belonging into the Microsoft Teams ecosystem has made a significant impact to their business. But we can also look at actual numbers from a broader base of our partners. Here are some statistics about how Teams has driven meaningful growth for all of our partners. Partners have reported to us that they have seen increased number of deals, increased deal sizes, and new revenue streams when they build and integrate their solutions into Microsoft Teams. But now that we've looked at some numbers, let's look at some specific examples. First up is La Toolbox. La Toolbox is an example of a partner who has grown their revenue by offering their solutions inside of Teams and taking advantage of the SaaS Microsoft commercial marketplaces. La Toolbox is a legal SaaS software company. It automates legal deadlines for courts and agencies and streamlines workflows for law firms. La Toolbox enables legal counsel to collaborate with their clients on a modern, secure platform. Because now La Toolbox's customers can keep their data secure in their Microsoft 365 tenant while using the partner's solution. The partner has also leveraged the Microsoft commercial marketplaces, and they've been able to reach new customers. In fact, they've told us that they've doubled revenue in 2 months. And over 12 months, they were able to see a 10 times growth. That's significant growth, a significant growth for the partner and new workflows enabled for our customers through their applications for law firms on the Teams platform. A second example is a young company called Breakthrough. Breakthrough offers a tiny break-taking tool, and they recently launched a custom-built application that they built specifically for Teams on the Teams platform. And through that, they have seen enterprise adoption and a rapid growth of users for their solutions with all sorts of customers. And customers, for example, like Lululemon, Breakthrough has been able to gain over 112,000 monthly active users in 65 countries through the scale of Microsoft 365 and the Teams platform. And finally, we go to another example of a company, Mural, who is leveraging our Microsoft technology and our commercial marketplaces to grow and accelerate at scale. Mural is a collaborative intelligence company. And by being a Microsoft ISV partner, Mural has seen an increasing number of Microsoft influenced opportunities. This allows Mural to deliver customer value and seamless integration within a single platform on an increasingly global basis. Mural has been able to reach joint customers and grow their scale alongside Microsoft by taking advantage of the vast reach of Microsoft's platform and our marketplaces. So what are the takeaways? Well, first, I think you should learn how to build a quality Teams application. Over the course of today's App Camp, you're going to learn about technical aspects of how to build or reuse portions of your existing applications to run in Teams. You want to take advantage of these extensible features of Teams to make your solution the best to meet your customers' unique needs. Also, I suggest watching this roundtable discussion. We have a panel of experts who are going to be discussing monetizing your application through our commercial marketplace in the later portion of today's App Camp. You're going to want to be able to leverage the scale and reach of these marketplaces so that you can tap into new customers and transact business efficiently and seamlessly. And then, finally, when you're ready to build your application, apply to the Microsoft 365 ISV Benefits Success Program. There, you can take advantage of any build incentives and marketing benefits that you might be eligible for. But I encourage you to read requirements and be aware that there are often time limits associated with them. So choose your time accordingly. And lastly, but not least, for all the startups out there, I want to encourage you to apply to Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub. Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub brings people knowledge and benefits together to help startups at every part of their journey. Sign up is seamless and is easy, and there's no funding required. And with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of today's App Camp, and I hope to see many new Teams applications in the store soon. Thanks. Over to you, Bob and Rabia.
Thanks so much. And could you just say what the, all right. The Founders Hub URL, I don't think we quite got that, so maybe we'll put that in the chat. So I'm going to switch over to my slides now and just talk about some of the benefits. Rabia and I kind of want to go into some of the benefits kind of more from a user point of view. Mina did a great job of covering some of the business benefits and some of the bright reception that these apps have gotten. But I really think that for customers, what this does is it streamlines work by integrating line of business apps into the collaborative tools. If you've ever copied and pasted things between your collaboration tool and your business applications where you live every day, if you've wished that you had collaboration in your line of business tools, or if you've kind of gone to use an application and it gives you yet another chat scheme that you have to check every day, that you have to learn, users all have to figure it out, it may or may not be compliant. Teams apps can bring those things together in a really important way. And I'd like to show you some examples of this, and Rabia will as well, basically based on some of the features of Teams that you can make use of inside of your application. First is messaging extensions using adaptive cards, then tabs that run in group environments like channels and chats, meeting extensions, personal apps, and then finally bots using adaptive cards. So it turns out these are the 5 criteria for what they call a quality app. If you want to take advantage of that ISV success program that Mina just mentioned, and I think Masako is going to probably talk about it a little bit more during the panel discussion, you have to have 2 out of the 5 of these scenarios. So let's just show them to you really quickly. So the first one that I'll show is a messaging extension. And this is a scenario around an HR recruiting team. And we've just interviewed a great candidate. And I'm logged in as Katie here. She wants everyone to send their feedback about this candidate. So rather than sort of looking up the name in an HR system and then everybody has to go into that HR system to give their feedback, we're going to be able to pull that up directly from Microsoft Teams, from the Teams application while she's typing. And so now that drops an adaptive card into the chat where people can take action directly within the chat. So here I am on my mobile phone and I'm running around to different clients and I know that this hiring situation is important. I can go into that team channel and there's the adaptive card. And I don't have to go look up Donna in some other application. I could schedule a follow-up interview from here, or I could do what I was asked to do and actually leave a comment. I'm just going to use the phone's built-in text-to-speech or speech-to-text, excuse me, to do that. And all of a sudden, we're good with the feedback. And I didn't have to go back to the office, remember to do it, go into the HR app, look up Donna, and then give the feedback. I was able to do it right there where I was.
It's great how Teams app can work on mobile. You're showing mobile here, Bob, and users can access them on the go.
Yeah, it's a big advantage that your Teams apps can work really anywhere that the user is working. So that's a really good point. So the next example that I'll show is of a configurable tab. So we're here in a group environment with this solution. And what all this does is it shows kind of a heat map of incidents that are going on a campus. And so this is a simple enough map, but notice that because it's configurable, I can change the settings of the map. And this gets changed then for every user in the team. So the result of this is that users don't need to learn how to set this up. It can be set up by the team owner, and then everyone can share their information. So I'm just going to add another point here on the map. And there you go. So you can even bring chat into it so that the team can chat while they're using the app. And the Teams channel will even have a link in it letting people know about the tab to draw them into your application.
Nice. I love how the settings and the data shown in this config tab is for the entire team. Like it's managed by someone or individual users have to worry about it.
Exactly. So if you've ever been given a new app and somebody sends you a list of instructions on how to set it up for yourself, right here, the team owner can do that and set the settings that are most relevant for his or her team. And individual members just use the tab, just click on the tab. So much simpler.
Great.
So next up, we've got a meeting app, which Robbie is going to show to everyone.
Yes, so this is a meeting app and the capability name is pretty straightforward. It brings your app in a meeting experience. Now, let me share some context or a bit of a story around this app. It's called Who's Next, before I run the demo. So imagine this classic scenario of a stand-up meeting where everybody, like 10 people in the room, is looking at each other to see who's going to speak next. So it helps, if there was an app to pick the next speaker. So to make this 30-minute work meeting more about work update and less about picking who goes next. Bob and I actually built this app, Who's Next, during Hack Week upon request from our teammates. And I'll be very honest with you, it has been a success so far. So let me show you the demo. So as you can see here, I'm on mobile and I'm in a call with my colleagues. I can open up the menu and I already have installed Who's Next app and I can just bring that out. And the experience here is you can see this UI. Everybody in the call can see this UI. And we've kept it fairly simple. So you can add the speaker names. Everybody can add their own names or someone can add it for them. And as you can see, I'm adding all 3 people here and it's Horse's turn. You can also remove someone in case someone ends the meeting quickly or has a sore throat maybe. So you can just go ahead and remove as well. So kept it super simple. Now in this, there is a button Who's Next and right at the bottom. If you click on that, it will pick the next person. This has been super useful for us. Like you give your updates on your task and then you click Who's Next and then you know exactly who's going to speak next. So that's the demo for the meeting app.
That's really great. And yeah, it really is fun to use that. An interesting thing for people to note is that this is not screen sharing, right?
Yeah.
You weren't sharing your screen at all, right? The app was actually synchronizing all those different views using the Fluid framework, I believe, right?
Exactly. So we built this and you can find the source code as well. So anybody can go ahead and try out this application. We'll put that in the chat. Right, so moving on to the next demo. It's One Productivity Hub. And again, this is a personal tab in Teams developed by one of our colleagues, Isb. So this, like I said, it's a personal tab. It's your personal information. Everything that you need for your workday will be right here. And this has 3 sections. We have the calendar event. So it shows my upcoming meetings so I can plan for it. There is a to-do task section. You can add your tasks, and in case you want to complete something, you can go ahead and complete that as well. And my personal favorite in this section is files, because I'm always looking for documents that I've been working on. This finds everything for me. And it is powered by Microsoft Graph. So this is a very useful scenario of bringing everything you're working on into your personal space.
Wow, that's great. And I love that this is a really good choice for a personal tab because it shows that personal tabs are really personal. So all that information is personal to you, right?
Exactly.
And
And
so
the
if there was business data, right, that would also, if somebody was building an app, they would want to put personal data for each user into that kind of personal tab.
That's right. That's right. And we can find the sample code as well. Again, in the chat, we will be putting the links in it. And I guess, Bob, you have more stuff to show?
Absolutely. So this next sample is a bot with an adaptive card, which is the final one of these 5 scenarios that we wanted to show. And before we get into the actual labs, the scenario here is that we're a consulting group, and I know there's probably a few consultants in the audience out there, typically, and we need to add somebody new to the project. So normally this would result in a flurry of emails, and in order to try to get the person in the group and get them onboarded. Here we have a bot that helps to do that. So I actually have to mention the bot because I'm in a group scenario, and we don't want the bot to overhear things people are just saying amongst themselves. So I mentioned the bot and I said, add Alice to the Contoso project. And what comes up is another adaptive card, but this is more like a little form that I can fill out. And wherever there's an ambiguity, it's actually giving me choices. And I can fill this out. And of course, to go back and forth with a bot, one question at a time would be rather cumbersome anyway. But the nice thing is that when the work is complete, what we get is a summary card of that the work was completed. So I'm sorry that flashed by rather quickly, but that has the advantage that people will know that Alice is joining the project.
Nice. I can see that this interaction is so simplified in this form, but it could easily take 100 emails.
Yeah, exactly. And so here's the summary card that I mentioned. And that's what people would see is they would just say, go into the team where everyone's already working and just say, oh, look, a new project assignment. We got Alice on the team. That's great.
Yeah.
So now let's go into a little bit of the architecture and the way that that these apps work. So Microsoft Teams client is really a facade, kind of a brilliant facade, if you will, over not just Teams services, but all of the Microsoft 365 services. And it stitches them together dynamically for users so that they can just get their work done and not worry about getting the files out of SharePoint and OneDrive, getting the notes in OneNote, getting the plans from Planner, doing their chats somewhere else, etc. So your app actually runs alongside of all this. And we had a question from the audience that's appropriate here, which is about embedded apps. Does Microsoft Teams support embedded apps? And I think the answer to that is sort of depends on what you mean by embedded apps, because if what you mean is you can go onto a tool like YouTube and click the embed button and copy a little iframe markup over and drop it into Teams, the answer is no, because of security and other reasons. You can't just put anything into the Teams window. But actually, all of Teams applications are embedded in the sense that they're not actually running in Teams. It's just that instead of an embed code in an iframe, you need to create this thing called a Teams app manifest. And what that does is it tells Teams, hey, there's a tab over there, and it could be hosted anywhere on the internet. And here's the URL. There's a bot over there that maybe is going to implement a messaging extension or be conversational in nature. And that bot has this identifier. So all that information is in the manifest, and we'll show you that in just a minute. And then you can implement those services anywhere on the internet. So here are the various capabilities once again. And most of these end up in the manifest. Dialogues, which Robbie will show in a bit, are an API call. Adaptive cards are a JSON format. But everything else is kind of declared in the manifest and then uploaded as the Teams app package that you would see in the Teams App Store or elsewhere. Now, there's a number of different ways to create these applications. Power Platform is really popular for use inside of enterprises. Unfortunately, it doesn't really extend to more than one tenant. So if you want to sell your software, you would have to manually install it in everybody's tenant. There's a number of kind of traditional approaches where you're writing code, including Teams Toolkit, which is Microsoft's latest and greatest code generator that will scaffold out a project for you. Yo Teams is similar and more mature. It's from the community and has been around for a while, and there's a lot of samples out there for that, as well as Teams Toolkit. You can use SharePoint Framework. But in talking to independent software vendors and customers alike, we found that in a lot of cases, there are already existing applications in place, and people don't want to really, start over again with one of these code generators. So to address that, we've created Microsoft Teams App Camp. And here's the website. You can go to this at aka.ms/app-camp. It's here. It's live for you right now. And what this does is it includes a bunch of content, including video briefings. There's a full business briefing with a lot more detail from our business experts and some case studies. And then there are two technical briefings, one that's all about building Teams apps and one that's all about monetizing the Teams apps in our commercial marketplace. And then there's, for every lab, so the whole thing is hands-on. For every lab, there is a video showing the details in case you get stuck or want more detail. And then we have a link to our sister site, Mastering the Marketplace, which goes much deeper on the commercial marketplace aspects. And then finally, there are a ton of labs. And that's really what we're going to go through now, is taking a look at these various labs. So basically, you're given at the beginning of App Camp, you're given a starting app, and you can choose one of two different starting apps, one of which already uses Azure Active Directory. So remember, I mentioned Azure AD is sort of the underlying identity service that makes Teams work, and your app will work a lot more smoothly for users if you also use Azure Active Directory and single sign-on. So if you're already using Azure AD in your app, you could start with the the starting app that uses Azure AD. If not, we have one that doesn't use Azure AD. There's an extra step there to do something that we call account linking, to kind of create a linkage between the two systems so that users can still enjoy Azure AD single sign-on. And then that brings you to what we call the core Teams application, which is just a personal tab. And then from there, you can extend using kind of in a choose your own adventure style to show configurable tabs, meeting apps, messaging extensions, and all these other options, not the least of which is monetizing your application. The prerequisites for this are extremely light. Basically, you can get a free Microsoft 365 tenant. I encourage you not to use the one that you're using in production to do this, but you can get a free tenant, and there's instructions in the App Camp website on how to do that, where you'll be the admin and you'll have 25 users, test users that you can configure and use. Node.js is used as sort of the server side that's going to run on your local computer, and you'll need some kind of a code editor. And then in order for the bot framework to get in, and just for kind of convenience of everything to get in with SSL and all those things, we're using a tool called ngrok, which is a tunneling program that allows you to access that local website from the internet, but just on that one port while you're testing. So you'll have control over that, and it does make life a lot easier. So that's the setup. Now let's take a look at some of the actual labs. I'm going to start with the Azure AD starting application. And here it is. I, of course, have to log in then with Azure Active Directory. And what you'll see is I can log in, I can view my orders. All this data is coming from the venerable Northwind database. You can see how old these orders are. This database has been around since the early days of Microsoft Access, I believe. But it's actually a free download to get all this data, and that's also in the instructions. So that's why we used it. It was quick and easy, and it gives you some decent amount of business data to work with. So obviously the system knows who I am because it's showing me my orders. I can also view products, and I can come in and look at the different product categories. Everything's cross-linked, so I can look at a product, see the orders for that product, etc. So that's the starting application. It's really kind of simple. And now if I come in and create one of these manifest.json files, so there is a tool called the Teams Developer Portal that will make it easier to do this with just kind of filling in a form. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to show you just really how it works at its core, which is it's just a JSON file. And there's a bunch of data here about metadata about the app itself. And then if I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that I'm declaring two personal tabs, which are called static tabs in the manifest. One for orders and one for products that correspond to the two tabs that were in the original application. And we're also at some point going to strip out the original navigation so that people can navigate through Teams. So if we come in here and look at this inside of Teams, and of course the instructions will show you how to do that. Oh, yeah, we get this error. And this is one of the other things about embedding things, right? So you have to kind of, most login and authentication systems will not work in an iframe. And Azure AD is no exception. So the next thing we have to do is update the code. And in the next lab, you'll update the code to actually show, to do a single sign-on. So that if I do a refresh, bang, I'm logged in immediately with no hassles, and I can just start using the application. Now, in order to make that work, we had to make a little code change, and it's really pretty simple. We're just going to go in and there's a JavaScript SDK that runs in the browser side of Teams. So there's a client and a server in this application. Inside that client, we're just going to initialize the Teams SDK and then get an auth token. And then that's it. We don't have to go through all of the code that we had before to authenticate the user. And that gets us a token from which we can call our own backend, which is what a typical application will want to do unless they're trying to call a third-party API directly from the browser. So that's kind of the starting point.
Cool. So it's the core application, right? From there, folks can actually go ahead and extend it using other of those adventures that you mentioned before.
Exactly. So you can do those, choose your own adventure in any order you want. I'll start by showing the configurable tab. So you saw a configurable tab before, but I didn't actually configure it. So let me show you how that would work. Imagine that I'm here in the beverages channel. And now if somebody asks me to check the stock level on one of the products, and my app is already in Teams, so all I have to do is click on the app that we just installed, go into products, find beverages, and that really didn't save me a lot of time, did it? I mean, I still had to navigate all over the place to answer that question. And remember, this is the beverages channel. That's all we do is beverages inside of here. So we will have you add a configurable tab where you can add this application directly to the Teams channel. This works in a group chat as well. And kind of pre-navigate for the user, right? So that you're bringing them right to the information that's relevant to that group. And then when I save this, it's going to put a note in the channel, drawing people into the tab, and there's the tab. So it brings me right to the information that I need inside of this channel. So to take a look at the code, it's fairly simple. What we're doing is when somebody selects a category, this is a separate page that we had to create, which is a configuration page. When somebody selected one of the product categories, we went ahead and set the validity state to true using the JavaScript SDK. What that did was it lit up the save button. They couldn't save it until they chose a category, right? And then once that save happens, well, we registered an on-save handler that will handle that. And what that's going to do is save inside of the Teams infrastructure some information, including an entity ID, which is where I'm storing the category to be shown in this tab. You could also encode data into the content URL, or maybe even just put a record locator for a database somewhere in the entity ID. Any way you want to do it so that you can get back the information that has been configured for use inside of that tab. So that's a configurable tab. Robbie, I believe you have a messaging extension to show.
Yes, I do. And in fact, since you were already talking about updating the stock levels, let's find out how you can do that using a message extension. So this is the message extension adventure that you will be doing in the lab. So I'm in a channel called Stock Updates, again, updating the stock for a product. Usually what I would do is I need to go to an application, find the product, update the details, etc. But right here, I'm in conversation with my teammates, and I want this done quickly. So how do I save time? I have the message app already installed. So from the compose area, I can pull up the app and search for the product right here in Teams while I'm having the chat with my colleagues, and select the product, the chai that you selected as well. And you can see a nice adaptive card with a form in it. So it's like a form. It's not just display of information. Anybody can go in and update the stock. So maybe we are chatting about the levels, checking with the vendor, etc. But you can get everything done and updated right here in the same context. So I'm going to go ahead and update the stock, and you'll see that the form refreshes itself and brings back the card that shows the latest and the greatest. So that's the message extension, and you will be building this out. Let me show you a sneak peek into the code. So as you can see here, I'm in the bot.js file, and upon every activity, there is something happening inside. So you can see here, based on the activity, whether it's a query. So query means you're searching for a product, then it will be handled by a handler here. If you are going to select the item like I did, then it is going to handle that as well, so that it will put that adaptive card in. And in the adaptive card, once you click on the submit button, it will update the product information. Now, if you come down below, you can see that every interaction, every activity here in this lab would bring back as a response an adaptive card. So that's what you're seeing, the card getting updated, etc. Cool. So the next one, the next lab is deep link. So deep linking is an important concept because navigation, if not done well, throws people off. And
Right.
when you're deep linking, you need to bring people back into the Teams application that they were in. Now, imagine you're talking about an order here. So you can see the interaction isn't as fruitful. Let me change that now. I'm going back to my orders personal tab, and I want my colleagues to work on a particular order. I will go to that order from within this table. So let me go back and select one of the order information, which will then take me to the order details page. And you'll notice a button, copy order URL. So this on selection would give me a link that you will be building using the labs, which will directly take my colleagues or anyone into this order within Teams. So I can come back to this conversation, and to make it more useful, I'll mention my colleague and say, here is the order. Now it's very hard for Adil here to ignore this task, because she can directly access this information from this chat. As you can see here, this link is unique, and you can actually build that out. Now, once I'm logged in as Adil, let me just switch now, and Adil can see this message, and without even thinking, without doing 100 different steps, she can go ahead and click on this, and it will take her into the Teams applications page of the order. So that particular order details page, but within Teams. So she's not actually switching back and forth. Now she can go ahead and update the work. So there's it's like you can focus on what you want to do and get things done quickly, saving a lot of time. Now, how we have generated this link is by creating the link this way manually, and then we will share it. But let me just tell you, whatever we've done in this lab is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do with deep linking. So go to aka.ms/deep-link to find out everything you can do to make use of deep linking. Like, it's not just linking it to a tab. You can do many things. You can link to a configurable tab, or you can link to a group chat. You can link to a meeting scheduling dialogue, or even a installation into an app installation form as well. So there are many different ways you can leverage this. So I would suggest you take a look at that. And the next one is dialogues. I'm pretty sure, Bob, you have mentioned dialogues many times in your demos as well. They're these very good interactive model pop-ups, I would say, within Teams that makes it so much easier for users, individual users, to add input. So I'm again in the order details page, and you'll notice there is a button called Add Notes. Once you select that, it opens up the dialog, and this dialog is actually developed using the Teams JavaScript SDK. There is a API called dialog.open. So if you've got a web page, a HTML page in your application already, you can reuse that page and make it a dialog by just passing some properties. So this is a great way to reuse existing applications or existing forms in your application. You can also use adaptive cards, by the way, for dialogues. So here we are adding notes into a particular order, as many notes as you want. So this is a app you will be building. Now let me quickly show you how it's done. So you can see here the small portion, the taskinfo.url. It points to a HTML file. Like I said, it's just a web page. And towards the end of this block, you can see Microsoft Teams.dialog.open, which is the API where you pass this information of your web page. And then it also has a callback function called submit handler. What this function does is it brings back the response from that dialog back into the page where you want this information to be, worked on. So this is how it's done for dialogues, and you will be able to do this in the lab as well. Now, I know there is this big piece monetization lab as well for you to show, Bob, so I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thanks. So, yeah, this is perhaps one of the more interesting labs. I'm going to have to go kind of quickly based on the time. But basically, in this lab, you'll actually add licensing and monetization to your app. So if nobody's licensed the app, they don't get to use it. As part of this, you'll actually get to run a app source simulator. So this simulates the App Store, and that will allow the user to purchase the app, in quotes, fake purchase the app, and bring you to the app's landing page, which is what tells the application, and this is the landing page, tells the application that somebody has purchased some licenses and has actually paid for them. So then Microsoft is charging the customer and sending 97% of the proceeds over to you as the app vendor. So I'm going to go ahead and enable self-service licensing inside of the app's licensing scheme. And now it works. And if you come back, and you'll be walking through all this code and seeing how it works inside of the lab. So let's move on now from this into our panel discussion before we go any further. Robbie?
Yes. Yeah, let's welcome our panelists. So we have Masako Kodama, Category Manager for Productivity and Collaboration in our Commercial Marketplace team, James Kay, Senior Product Manager in Teams Engineering, and finally David Starr, Principal Software Engineer in our Commercial Marketplace Service team, and the creator of the Mastering the Marketplace training. Welcome, everyone. So I have the first question. Hey, how you doing? So I have the first question for you, Masako. What kind of resources are available for people who wants to build Teams apps for the Teams App Store?
Yeah, there's a lot, but I'm just going to focus on three things. One is Microsoft's 365 Isb Benefit Program. If you're interested on creating a Teams app and you wanted to monetize it, this is the must, and it is free to join. There's a lot of GTM benefit, developing benefit, but I want to focus on the financial incentive. If you create a high quality app and monetize it, you get $10,000. And if your app get $25,000 of yourself, you get another $10,000. So get this $20,000 right now, sign up, and then create and go. That's number one. Nina talked about the ISB Benefit Program. This is going to be great for anyone who wanted to do marketplace and play. Maybe you wanted to create an Azure app. This is going to be a program for you. But right now it is at the preview. So I would love you to join the Marketplace Summit, which is going to be November 15th, because we are going to announce about the enhancement of ISV Success Program. So three things. And James, thank you for posting the links.
That's great. Thanks so much, Masako. I think this next question might be appropriate for James. Once the Teams app is built, what's involved in getting it into the App Store?
That's a great question. So first, kudos to everybody who's here and learning more about how to build the Teams app, as well as how to monetize it. So building the Teams app is going to be the very first thing that you do in order to get where you are today. As you look to publish your Teams app, you're going to do that through Partner Center, which is also the same place that you're going to create what we call a transactable SaaS offer. And when you do so, you're essentially creating your transactable SaaS offer, and then inside of your offer, you have an opportunity to link it to an app or an Office app. And in this case, you choose to want to link your SaaS app with your Teams app, or your SaaS offering with your Teams app together. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to have your app appear on AppSource, such that if someone were to ever search for your Teams app, they're going to see the plans and pricing that are available for it, which is great. You don't want them just to find a Teams app, and then somewhere in the middle of the ether is your plans and pricing. We want to link them together first and foremost. Then the second step required in order to get your Teams app to show up in the Teams App Store, as well as the Teams Admin Center, with not just an add button, but also a buy a subscription button, requires you to update your Teams app manifest. And inside the app manifest, it's going to show an opportunity for you to provide your offer and your publisher IDs. You can do this directly in the app manifest, or as Bob mentioned earlier, the Teams developer portal actually can walk you through this specifically. And so there's a lot of great materials that are out there, and I'll just drop one right now. It's actually the Teams Monetize technical guide, walks you through each of the steps that I provided here right now. And so the first and foremost, download that guide at aka.ms/TMTG. And as Mina mentioned, we're looking forward to seeing your apps in the App Store, and I'm looking forward to seeing them with the buy button next to them. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, James. Okay, so my next question is for David. So Microsoft is providing an e-commerce engine. How do applications integrate with that, David?
Well, really, we're focused on the SaaS applications that have been mentioned several times by Bob and by James. And that is sort of your billable mechanism, if you will, for monetizing or charging for your Teams application. And the commerce engine that underlies that is an integration with the Microsoft Commercial Marketplace. And the ways of integrating are that you can charge flat rate or you can charge per user. And those billing mechanisms are present in SaaS applications. So again, the Teams app just sort of wraps that SaaS application, which is the monetizable, the billing component, if you will. So the chat I saw had a couple of links that came out to what we call our Sas Accelerator. And that Sas Accelerator can help you get onboarded with a complete SaaS application in 20 minutes or less. And if you don't want to implement your own SaaS implementation or your own SaaS solution, this is a great way to get started really quickly. So I would just point that out. And that really is the whole billable application story, I think. James, did you have anything to add to that?
No, you did a great job. I think the one thing to call out, David, that you didn't actually mention was we also get the preemptive question around like metered billing. Currently, metered billing is not yet available for a Teams application. So as long as you either support a flat rate or per user, you can monetize and have that Teams app monetized today.
That's great. And I guess another question that I'll sort of throw out to the group, I'm not sure who's the best to answer, but does Microsoft support license management for work in Teams? Or how does license management work in Teams apps?
I could take that one. Prior to Build this year, we actually looked to our ISV developers to create and manage their own license management solution. Now, what that meant was that, when someone transacts through our marketplace, we send them to your landing page. And you're going to learn a lot about landing pages as you go through this journey, because that's the cutoff from where the subscription begins on our end and the usage begins on yours. And during that, if you have a per user model, the expectation is that you have infrastructure in place that actually allows you to assign licenses to those users who need them. Imagine I'm a subscriber. I bought the license. I bought 10 licenses for your solution. How do I actually then assign those 10 users? And right now that's up to you. But at Build earlier this year, one of my colleagues, Chandrika, mentioned that Microsoft is working to provide first-party license management capabilities for your solution. Now, what that means is if you haven't yet published your transactable offer, you might want to wait to see what this means potentially for you. So after a user has purchased the subscription, if first-party license management is enabled for your application, the licenses would be assigned within the Teams environment itself. Meaning I could assign them individually to users, or I could then choose to assign them to users within a particular team. The reason I say that you might want to hold on pausing at the moment is that there's two things. It hasn't fully GA'd yet. In fact, we're just in a current preview. But second, if you have an existing offer today where you are managing the license component on your own, one of the requirements for managing the licenses through Microsoft's first-party management solution requires a net new offer. Now, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we know that each Teams app can only have one published offer. So if you have a published offer today where you're managing the licenses, there's going to be some potential heavy lifting that would be required for you to pull back and move over to a new one where we hold that for you. But I digress because we haven't fully released it yet. But if you're interested, look at our announcements for Microsoft Build, and we're looking to have more information available about the availability by the end of this calendar year.
Awesome. Thanks, James and David. So how much does Microsoft keep when you sell a subscription to a Teams app? Maybe that question is for you, Masako.
Yeah, the standard agency fee is 20%, but Microsoft cares about you. And we are not charging 20%, it is 3%. Now, 3% is similar to the credit card, but we do more than credit card. We have CSP partners that we built over decades that sells Microsoft 365 licenses. You know what? Those CSP partners can attach your ISV solution. And you don't have to build like 90,000 partners by yourself. Just join Marketplace and appeal to them by giving them margin. If you do that, CSP has the motivation to sell your application. So thinking about just going to direct, Mina talked about the 270 million monthly active users. Imagine how much do you have to pay to reach out to 270 million? I don't know, but it's going to be a lot. And imagine reach out to 90,000 partners. Mm, that's a lot too. And furthermore, if you are in Microsoft Commercial Marketplace and transactable, Microsoft sellers will look at you. And then when there is an opportunity, then they're going to do the co-sell. So I hope that is good and I feel like, okay, 3%, that's cheap.
Okay, thank you, Masako.
It's great.
And can I answer one of the questions that we had
Yeah,
from the
please just go
audience?
directly, please.
Yeah, there was a question about like, hey, ISB Success Program, we are in West Indies. Like, when can I join? Yeah, you're correct. Right now, ISB Success Program is in the preview mode, but it is going to GA very soon, and we are going to announce on November 15th at Marketplace Summit. So I hope you will join that Marketplace Summit because we will talk about our current state, our future vision, and what you can do today and the roadmap for the future. And I'll be doing the Q&A as well. So if you want to meet me, please come.
That's great. Another question that came in was, what would you say are the advantages of using Teams monetization, or really our commercial marketplace monetization, over something like Stripe?
Yeah, Stripe is a good mechanism, and anyone can do that. However, Stripe is a mechanism to transact. What I explained about the marketplace is it's more than transaction. It's like CSP connection 90,000. It is the field of Microsoft Field account sellers to know your product, and it is going to be inside the teams. So where people are using the teams every single day and wanted to see if there is any app that is going to be useful, then they can find it and buy it inside the teams. That's the beauty about it.
Oh, that's great. Well, I really want to thank you all for joining us today. This has been really informative, and also thank everyone in the audience and everyone on the Microsoft side as well who has made this live cast possible. I have a few next steps for everyone. The first is that if you want to rewatch this event or share it with your friends, the URL to do that is aka.ms/teamsappcamp. So the same one you used to register with will work here. You can also, I would encourage everyone to just go try the labs. So all the AppCamp labs and video tutorials are there right now waiting for you and your colleagues at aka.ms/app-camp. Now, some of our sister teams have kindly offered to help us support you in this effort. And so if you would like to request some support, we actually have a survey link here with which you can do that. So that's a really great opportunity, aka.ms/teamsappcamp/survey. And we have a couple of workshops coming up, one on November 15th and another on the 29th. They're going to be live casts similar to this. They're fairly short, but we're going to get a little bit more into the technical aspects of building the Teams app during these workshops. And so it'd be great to see you there. And also be sure to watch us and follow us on YouTube on the Microsoft 365 developer channel at aka.ms/m365 YouTube. One other quick request I want to make. We're trying to measure people completing these labs. And we're also trying to respect privacy rules and not gather anyone's personal information as we do that. So we put this little button at the bottom of each lab. And it's fairly, Rabia, this is the extent of my artistic capability. Is this giant button. But if you click it, it will just give us a counter, not any information about you personally, that somebody completed the lab. If you would be kind enough, it doesn't even really look like a button. What do you think?
It's hard to miss. So
This
cute.
giant brown rectangle, maybe I'll make it look more like a button, is how we're measuring our success and trying to continue to invest in this program. So if you would be kind enough to, when you complete each lab, smash that button, as well as subscribing and liking the YouTube channel. That would be really, really helpful. And so I think that's about it. I really appreciate everyone coming. Thank you so much, Rabia.
Thank you for joining.
All
I'm
right.
gonna go back to sleep.
We'll see y'all later.
See ya. Bye.